Welcome to this week's Bible study as we look for the truth to the question, who is Jesus? In part 1 of this 3-week series, we look at Jesus, the baby in the manger. 2 of my children were born at Carbonear General Hospital. Unlike now when babies usually stay in the room with their mother, back then they had a nursery room where all the newborn babies were kept. I remember that room vividly. It had a large window with a curtain. Certain times during the day, the curtain would be pulled back so visitors could see into the room. Each baby would have their own space and a card showing their last name, date of birth, and weight and height. Parents, grandparents, siblings, and other visitors would stand gazing into the room. It was not uncommon to hear, "That's mine over there. Look how tiny she is." Or, "He looks just like his father." Over the years, there were many smiles on the faces of those who stood outside that window. There has always been and will continue to be something fascinating about the birth of a baby. New life brings new hope and joy. Such was the hope and joy of those who witnessed the birth of a certain baby over 2,000 years ago. An angel announced it this way to a group of shepherds out in the field. "I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all the people. Today, in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is Christ the Lord." Luke 2:10 and 11. For centuries, God had promised his people a Messiah, but few expected him to be born to a relatively unknown teenage girl, and certainly not in a stable, home to farm animals, a lowly manger for his first bid. What is the significance of this birth? From the beginning of mankind, God had stayed at a distance, but no more. Now God, the baby Jesus, had come to earth through a virgin birth and would live as perfectly human, perfectly God. Like all babies, Jesus cried when he was hungry and felt secure in his mother's arms. He smiled for the first time, had to learn to walk and talk, and like babies do, grew in knowledge and stature. I sometimes wonder why God chose to enter the world in such a way. Why not just appear as a grown man? The birth of Jesus was part of God's divine plan to save his people, as we will discover in part 3 of this series. Old Testament prophecies made clear God's intention to come to earth in such a way. Isaiah 7:14 tells us, "The virgin will be with child and will give birth to a son, and will call him Emmanuel." The literal meaning of Emmanuel is God with us. John 1:14 says, "Jesus became flesh and made his dwelling among us." His virgin birth qualified him to be perfectly human, but more importantly, qualified him to be our perfect sacrifice, our Redeemer from sin. It was Jesus. Yes, Jesus was the baby in the manger. God himself came to earth, and I believe that is the truth. Join us next week for our What is Truth Bible study, Part 2, Jesus, the man who walked on water.